guys, Erin here, and I am going to discuss about shame-based parenting. And I know there's a lot of parents out there who don't understand, how to deal with this because I struggle as a parent. Okay, I am not a parenting person, and I can say this with my clear conscience. I am the more of the type that I'm my auntie who will give the kids back. Now that I have my own kid, it's a little bit hard to give back to a parent because he's mine. All right, so we have to really understand the factors of shame and what this inner dialogue that we have creates. So we have to understand when we are shameful or we have this living ideal idea of how we ought to parent or how we need to be, it's not how it is in reality. Okay, we have to understand reality isn't always match to our ideals, and when it doesn't match to our ideals, we get anxious. We have these expectations to meet. We set our bars high and we're down here. Okay, it's trying to figure out how to bridge the gap, and you have to realize your expectations may be too high for you to even reach. Even with my own parents, I try to guilt trip me on how I need to parent. I'm like, no, we're not going down that road. And my mom constantly criticizes me every single day about parenting, almost every single day. The days when I'm like, thank God she's not criticizing me today for something different. If she's not criticizing me about my parenting, it's about my cleaning. I'm like, you know what, we're done with this. We're not going down this road anymore. But it's about understanding the nature of my own parents, how they act, how they see things, how they want things. And when you don't meet those criterias, you are basically looked at as a failure. So we need to really understand that we're not failures when it comes to this. We have to realize we just have met parents' expectations in the near future. And I had to really be much more realistic about my approach when it came to my own parenting, because my son may be 3 going on 4 next year, and realizing I can do a lot better when it comes to parenting. I am the type of person who with parenting, I give my son a little bit quote unquote free range. I know at 3 he should be most more constructive, but knowing his energy and knowing I've done birth chart readings that he needs to be much more in an environment that will let him understand outside growth, being the outside all the time, not being confined in a building all the time, because when you're outside, you learn a lot. And my son is that type of person. He loves to be outdoorsy. He needs to be touched with the outdoors. But in this, and where I live around here, there is not much like that. You have to be somewhere going towards, up north a little bit and be a little bit more distant from home. And that's kind of hard to travel, especially when I don't have a car anymore at the moment. So I had to really be realistic about these notions of what to do when it comes to change. And my son is that he's very open. He has a mind of his own where he just likes to do his own thing, and I'm just like, that's independence right there. I like that you do that, and sometimes you have to learn to realize when do you break that cycle. When do you, I don't want to say cycle, break the cycle, but it's just when you set boundaries with your kids too. Sometimes I think when we get overly constructive and we have shame-based parents, we tend to take more control than actually letting go control. See, parents who don't know who they are inside often like to dominate what's going on the outside because their own inner shame and core is messed up. And because the inner core is messed up, the outside source needs to look perfect. So we have to really understand and work on developing our own inner nature. And I had to work on this really, really hard, especially now that I have a 3-year-old, what my inner core looks like. And once I understand my own inner core, I'm able to really okay, this is how I see myself. And I have to be very 100% honest with myself. Once I'm 100% honest with myself, I'm able to realize, okay, I gotta look at this and down the road. I gotta change this because if my son wants to be, in a relationship with me, and him not cutting me out, because I want to do that with my own parents eventually. What often will end up happening is I'm able to put perspective of, okay, I see how Jeremiah is. I see who he is as a person and how he lights up the room, his own way. He likes to entertain. He likes to be around people. He's the type of person who's very independent as well. He's very much more into his own little world. I think too much to the point where I think he forgets what it means to be around people, because it's also my fault that I need to put around him with people, but I don't need to do that because the fact that I don't have a car. And you live in the suburbs, you need to drive. But I lost my car in an accident, and that's a whole nother mess. But it's just understanding, that's what he is. And he will do well in school once I have everything sorted out. And the universe, I'm hoping to God, things will work out in the end, because I'm just losing my mind over this. Because I'm action-oriented type A woman, and I'm like, I need to get things done now. And I tend to mess things more up than I actually let when I try to wait things out. When I wait things out, things seem to work out better. But I had to really understand the notions of what it came down to. Shame-based parenting keeps you in this position of not being good enough. So what is causing you to feel that way? What is it that you need to understand about yourself that your inner dialogue has told you? What did your parents tell you? What did your caretakers tell you? What did your teachers tell you? Because these shame-based issues will be the problem. We have to understand the dichotomy within the core. We have to understand, when people get upset with you because you may not parent right, and you catch on to that and you become extremely sensitive, what is it that the inner dialogue is telling you? Because if people's opinions are affecting you like this, then there's something wrong. There's something in you that you're letting it affect you in this type of manner. So you have to really understand that, okay, I'm being extremely sensitive to this, but why am I feeling sensitive to this? It's only their opinions. That opinion is what they think. It's not what you know for yourself. So once you understand and hear that these situations that come about, when people spread their opinions, what is it that you're going in here? What are you not doing to heal inside you? So we have to really understand the truth about our inner core. So that is something I had to really understand when it came to my own parenting skills. When I feel like I'm not being good enough, when I feel like I am down this path that I am just trying to figure out. Like, some people try to give me these, positive nature, nurturing, holistic way of going about it. I am more of a realist. I realize that about myself. I see things objectively and I always call it out for what it is, and that is it. And a lot of my friends from college told me that, yeah, you're always straightforward. You never just beat around the bush. You just tell it like it is and you're not afraid to say it. I'm like, I do that, don't I? And I do that. Like, yeah, there are times when I feel guilty about certain saying things because it may hurt someone else's feelings. But at the same time, it's about really seeing the facts for what it is. And it may hurt their feelings, but why cover up the truth when it's going to only harm you down the road? If that makes sense. Some people may be much more sensitive towards that. I have to be very cautious about this too. So consciously aware about that. And awareness is key to everything if you want to have any sort of real objection in life. So it's really understanding the nature of circumstances and really understanding the nature of dealing with these, dealing with your own core. And that's what I'm really working towards. It's really working with other people with this. So shame-based parenting is basically pain that you have not dealt with over the years that you are basically telling yourself that you're not going to be good at. But also being honest about yourself is also a good thing too. So we have to be very, very honest about situations and being honest about who we are as individuals, and it's okay to speak up and have your opinions, and it's okay to say something about it. And sometimes you have to be timing, and timing does say a lot. And when you understand what time does, it can heal all things in its own due time. And I know my son is going to do things that are going to be stupid. There are going to be times when he's going to be getting on my case, and I will be basically telling him straight up what I think. But in the end, I think it's going to make him feel better as a person in the long term. Even if I don't see it now, but we start realizing how this works out when we start putting things in perspective with our own children. And you know what? Let them be who they are. Shame-based parenting doesn't mean you need to control all the time. You don't have to set up expectations. You don't need to have all these rules, guidelines, and all this. Because I remember having a 1-inch binder just like this one right here. These are my articles that I printed out and put in. Just like this. And it was gray. And my dad would have these mission statements. I'm like, you don't need to do that. It's really understanding the dichotomy that you don't need to control everything. You can let things go sometimes. And the more you try to control the outcome, it's because of your own guilt and shame you haven't dealt with. And you're realizing that, out of shame and guilt, you're not loving the person. You're basically, what you're doing is keeping them from actually achieving their end goals in life. And I had to understand this too from my own perspective, what I've grown up with. I've dealt with parents who, I saw this actually. So this one woman who's yelling at with their 2-year-old because they want to do their own thing. I'm like thinking to myself, I got yelled at a lot as a child. When When you have children 2.5 years apart, your 2-year-old is still growing and trying to mature and trying to understand what you want. They don't understand the fact is that mommy is tired. They only think, because this is from my own experience with this, because I can remember exactly back then. Kids remember a lot of shit back in the day. So when your child is looking at this, they're looking at it like, oh, mommy, was yelling at me a lot. Why was mommy yelling at you? They don't really have the concept to understand that. The reason why mommy was yelling is because I did something wrong. This is how the shame starts. The child did something wrong. And I heard the mom saying that they want to discipline their child and giving them a timeout. And I'm like realizing, I think maybe she eventually got it that she was being irrational, but in some ways that can be an irrational way of seeing things. You may be tired, you have things that you need to get done. We all do. I know I could tend to do this my own cool with my own son. Don't get me wrong. It's about really understanding the nature of perspective. And I had to really understand perspective in the long term, how putting this in perspective will help you grow and achieve your goals in the end. See, I go with a parent who had this agenda of one day had kids. How children ought to meet parents' agenda. And when the child doesn't, they get shamed because of the fact that their parents had these sort of agendas for the child, but without realizing how this agenda will affect them in the long term. This agenda is not who they are. And so we end up following, as children, we want to please our parents, but in the end, who are we as an identity, as a person? Because we had followed their path, we had done what they wanted, but we lost ourselves in the process of making them happy. Shame-based parents don't need to constantly put their agenda on children. They are willing to help their child grow. They're willing to help them become an individual themselves, and they're willing to, help them guide. Parents will guide them. They don't put expectations on these children. Shame-based parents often put expectations to meet. And this is a problem that many of these parents have, because they haven't met their own needs. So they expect their children to meet their needs because of the fact that they haven't met them at all. So we have to understand the energy when it comes to this. What is it that I need to do to face in order to gain better understanding and acknowledge that this is quite toxic? Sometimes we do have expectations for our children. We expect our children not to steal. We guide them not to do that, but they will do it. I mean, my son went 5 houses down and stole a newspaper, and I'm like, he was 3 and he did not know what to do with it. And I'm like, okay, we are going to replace that, put the newspaper back. It's not a big deal. But it's understanding the nature of these little patterns, and I have to give that back. I think, unless my mom threw it away. I think she actually threw the newspaper away. But it's a lesson learned. You learn from these experiences, and you learn how to deal with them, and you are willing to teach your son not to do these things. Okay, and at the age of between 2 to 3 years old, they're still learning. Probably at 4 or 5, they will do that too. But when they learn these natures of habits and how these are wrong, we as parents should not have to criticize them. They go, oh, this is bad. You can't keep doing that. And pointing fingers, it's like, okay, reel it in. Look at yourself. Did you do the same thing as your child? Yes, I did. So I'm like thinking to myself, okay, if I did this as myself as a child, what could I help my son to understand from my own experience in this to help him develop a better mindset? So we have to really understand it. I know, and life gets hectic, and we can't always do this all the time. But once we get into perspective in situations, we're able to really put an aha moment to it, and we're like, oh, this makes sense now. So we have to really come down to their level a little bit. Be that 3-year-old again. Understand what mother felt like. Because I know with my mother, when she had my sister, because we had 2.5 years apart, I think my mom had my sister a little too early, in my opinion, because I still did not understand how the concept of how I can be a second parent to my own parent, especially when I don't know exactly what she needed. I'm like, okay, we got to really work on this. So I didn't ever understand that. And I was kind of like, I don't know what to do with this. And I was like dumbfounded. I mean, I was an idiot at 3, okay? So I don't know how to be all of that. And my son doesn't either. So it's like really understanding the nature of parents and how they work these out in the end. I'm really understanding how I'm really understanding, yeah, that was rephrased wrong. It's really understanding your own nature in life, sorry. And really understanding how your way of seeing things will put, and it will impact your children down the road. You know, how you see things will help them grow, and how you see things can benefit them or harm them, you know, harm them in their own way of growth as well. So we need to really understand what is it that I'm here that I need to really work on. And you may need to be with yourself for an hour. I will go for 2 hour walks if I can. I did today an hour. But whatever it is that you need, make sure that you put that into perspective and make sure that you end up, you know, making that transition for yourself. You know, be that parent, be the change that you want to see, you know. And the only way you're going to do that is when you start doing the work. My parents were the type of people who expected everybody else to change but never really changed themselves. And sometimes you have to understand, my parents grew up in a generation where Republicans ruled the world in their own mindset. So I'm like, this is never going to really work because I'm a Democrat. And when you've grown up and everybody else is a Republican and you're a Democrat, you're looking at it like, yeah, but I grew up in the U.S. I was born here and I see how this all works out. Yeah, that's not me at all. It's an honest evaluation. And when you honestly evaluate the self, you are able to get the results that you want in the end. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. There is no sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns all the time. It's just doing reality. It's a messy world we live in. And the messiness helps us to gain better perspective. And you got to understand, people's opinions only come because we let that affect us. You know, we can't let that always impact us, but we just can't always focus on it either, you know? So honestly, be real with yourself. Be real with your kids. Stop hiding bullshit. Because the more you hide the bullshit, the more they smell it. Honestly, I swear to you, these kids pick up energy like no other. These kids are young, and because these kids are young, they're kind of innocent. Kind of innocent. I don't think they're 100% innocent, but kind of innocent. And then you're looking at it like they pick up on your vibe, they pick up on energy, and they're like, what is it that this is going on here? So they know things. At a young age, I figured out my mother had deep-seated issues at the age of 5. I see my mother when my grandparents lived with us, how she acted. She acted like a 12-year-old girl when my grandparents lived with us. I'm like, and we wonder why, you know. It was kind of like, how does she become an adult in the situation? When they're not there, she becomes an adult. I'm like, it was kind of confusing to me, but that's what often ends up happening when you're dealing with these types of energy. And sometimes wonder why your past creates in the present is because you never dealt with your past. See, parents have responsibilities when they have their own children, not to create the past in the present. And how do you do that? Evaluate the self. And I want to keep repeating that in my videos, because when you do, you are able to get an honest perspective in the end. And it's on you to make sure that you do. Anyways, I hope this video helps. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you guys next time. And let me hear what you guys